aspect of himself. This particular little spot in London town looked by day a shambles. At this moment in the firelight, though, it was pure magic. Old Woody's firm and strong voice spoke to his God, to Anna, and to all mankind. In faith, I do not love thee with mine eyes, for they in thee 1,000 errors note, but 'tis my heart that loves what they despise. His nut-brown chuckle broke the spell. Do you know that one? It's one of Shakespeare's sonnets. They, he said, and his arms swept out to embrace the world, will tell you and encourage you to develop your brain and your 5 senses. But that's only the half of it. That's only being half human. The other half is to develop the heart and the wits. He ticked them off one by one on his old gnarled hands with the end of his pipe. There's common wit, there's imagination, there's fantasy, there's estimation, and there's memory. Old Woody's face turned upwards. His spirit danced and was warmed out among the stars, while his body remained with us and was warmed by the old tin can brazier. Never let anyone rob you of your right to be complete. The day is for the brain and the senses. The darkness is for the heart and the wits. Never, never be afraid. Your brain may fail you one day, but your heart won't. He returned like a comet, leaving behind a shining trail of love. He stood up and stretched himself, looked around at all the faces, and his gaze stopped at Anna. I know you, young lady. I know you well. He pulled his coat close around his old shoulders and moved out of the circle of light, and stopped and smiled once more at Anna. He held out his arm and he spoke. Thus doth she, when from individual states she doth abstract and universal kinds, which then reclothe in divers names and fates, steal across through our senses to our minds. Then he was gone. No, not gone, for some part of him, perhaps the biggest part of him, remained and remains even to this day. We stayed looking into the fire for 10 minutes or so. We asked no questions, for there were no answers. We didn't even say goodbye to the night people as we left. I wondered if we had left as much behind us at our going. We walked on slowly through the streets of London, each afloat on our own thoughts. One of the council's motorised road sweepers made clean the mess of the day. It came towards us, spraying the roadway and the pavement as it came, its large cylindrical brushes clearing up the streets of London for the daylight people. We did a pas de deux to the right as it sprayed, hissed onto the pavement, and then one to the left as it passed us. Anna switched on her klaxon horn laugh and spun like a top with joy. Pointing after the receding sweeper, she said, "Fairies! They're like fairies." Some fairies, I chuckled. Like what you read to me about Puck. The mood and joy of the night caught hold of me. I ran and leapt onto a nearby pillar box and stood up and declared the lines of Puck to the night. I am sent with broom before to sweep the dust behind the door. Titania pirouetted and circled the pillar box in a fairy's dance. A policeman advanced in the distance, and pointing a finger at him I yelled, "How now, squirt? Whither wander you?" His, "What do you think you're up to?" was almost lost to our laughter. I jumped off the pillar box and grabbed Anna by the hand as we raced after the despairing road sweeper. We dashed through its fountains of spray and waited ahead of it, breathless with running and laughter. "Look, it's a moth and a mustard seed," I gasped out. No, it's not. "It's a peas blossom and a cobweb," she squeaked. Our feet and legs were drenched as the sweeper passed. It went on for a few more yards and then stopped. The spray was turned off, the cab door opened, and Mustard Seed stepped to the ground. The sight of a 6-foot 20-stone overall-clad Mustard Seed was too much. We clung to each other, helpless with laughter. Mustard Seed moved towards us from one direction while the policeman, with measured tread, approached from behind us. We fled, howling, down a side street and stopped at some safe distance. The policeman and Mustard Seed, now joined by Moth, were looking down the street after us. What they were talking about, who knows, but my guess was that it was something to do with the madness of youth. I grabbed Anna's hand again and we ran. We didn't stop running until we came to the embankment. We climbed onto the parapet and opened our sandwiches and munched them while we watched the night traffic on the Thames pass by. After finishing the sandwiches, I lit a fag. Anna climbed down and began a lonely game of hopscotch on the pavement. She got about 30 yards away, turned and ran back and stood in front of me. "Hello, Fynn." She twirled around and parachuted her skirt. "Hello, Anna." I inclined my head and threw out a gracious hand. She was off again, hopping away for all she was worth, chanting a 1-2-3 song. She stopped and performed a little dance of pure joy. She ran back, her finger drawing a wavy line on the wall. She stopped again about 5 yards short from me, turned again and drew another wavy line with the fingers of her other hand on the wall. 20 or 30 times she covered that 20-yard length of wall. Long and slow waves, short and fast waves. Sometimes she walked as she drew her wavy line. Sometimes she went backwards and then forwards as fast as her legs would carry her. The wall showed no signs of her activity, bore no witness to her thoughts. It remained blank. But then Anna was writing on her inner blackboard. At the end of her run she stopped. The lamplight glinted on her hair. She shook her head violently, and a cloud of copper sparks rose up and settled. She began to walk, head down, heel to toe along the cracks of the paving stones. Her course, unplanned and uncharted, led only by the chance intersection of paving stone cracks. I doubt if she was even aware of what she was doing. This activity absorbed about 1% of her attention. The other 99% had got turned around and was looking inside at something. It's funny how you learn to read the signs. This was the impending revelation prelude. That is, if it got worked out. I put my packet of fags and matches beside me. It was possible I wouldn't have another chance for an hour or so if I had read the signs right. Her walk finished. She drifted over to the wall, leant against it, and remained perfectly still for a minute or two. With about as much attention as she had walked the cracks of the pavement, she shuffled her feet forwards, about a yard or so. She made an angle with the wall, supported only by her heels and the back of her head. I nearly yelled, but I didn't. It wouldn't have made much difference if I had. There wasn't much of her on the outside. She couldn't have heard me where she was. She didn't walk back. She didn't hop. She didn't jump, skip, or run back. She rolled back. For 30 or more yards, she rolled, balanced between head and heels. Over and over she rolled, ending up with her head buried on my legs, and there she stayed. Her voice, muffled by my trousers, said, "I'm dizzy." "Ain't that the truth?" I replied. "The wall's hard," came her muffled voice. "So's your head." I got a sharp, "Don't be funny," bite on my leg. "Hey, that hurts," I reminded her. "So does my head." "It's your own fault. You shouldn't be so daft." "What was all that in aid of?" "I was thinking." "That was thinking?" I asked. "Please God, I never learned to think." "Do you want to know what I was thinking about, Fynn?" She looked up at me. "If I've got a choice," I answered. "No, I don't." She knew that I was teasing her, and her smile told me that I didn't have a choice anyway. "It can't be light." Anna gave that sentence a finality that was irrefutable. "So fine," I said. "If it can't be light, what is it?" "Mr. God can't be light." The words flew like stone chippings as Anna hacked away with her mental chisels. I could imagine Mr. God edging forwards on his golden throne and peering down through the clouds, a little anxious to know what kind of a mould he was being forced into now. I had the itch to look upwards and say, "Relax, Mr. God, just relax. You're in safe hands." I reckon Mr. God must get a bit fed up now and again, considering all the various shapes we'd pressed him into over the last 1,000 years, and I don't suppose we've come to the end of it yet, not by a long chalk. "He can't be light, can he? Can he, Fynn?" "Search me, Titch. Search me," I said. "Well, he can't be. 'Cause what about them little waves we can see and the big waves that we can't see? What about them?" "Ah, I see what you mean. I reckon things would look a whole lot different if we could see those waves." "I think that the light's inside us. That's what I think." "Oh, could be. Could be you're right," I said. "I think it's so we can see how to see." She nodded her head. "That's what I think." Upstairs, Mr. God, if you'll pardon the image, slapped his leg and turned to his angel hosts and said, "How about that? How about it?" "Yes," continued Anna. "The Mr. God light inside us is so that we can see Mr. God light outside us. And that, Fynn." She jumped up and down with excitement as she rounded it all off. "The Mr. God light outside us is so we can see the Mr. God light inside us." She played the whole melody over again to herself in silence. With a grin that would have put a Cheshire cat to shame, she said, "That's nice, Fynn. Ain't it nice?" I agreed that it was nice. Very nice. But I was beginning to think that I had had just about enough for one night. I was glutted and needed a little time to digest the night's happenings. But not Anna. She had just got into her stride. "Fynn, can I have the chalks?" It was time to come up for air, and I rummaged about in my pockets for the tin. Going out with Anna fell naturally into three categories. There was oozing along, like we were doing this night. The demands of oozing were simply met. 2 smallish tins containing coloured chalks, string, bits of coloured wool, lastic bands, a small bottle or 2, paper, pencil, pins, and a few other knickknacks, odds and ends, and such like. Category 2 was going for a walk. This was a bit more complicated. Over and above the 2 tins just for oozing, going for a walk demanded such things as collapsible fishing net, jam jars, boxes of various sizes, tins, bags, etc., etc. Ideally, we should have had a 5-ton truck following us, carrying everything necessary for going for a walk. If Mother Nature had been a little kinder to all the bugs, beetles, caterpillars, frog spawn, and what have you, that Anna brought back from going for a walk, I reckon that London would have ground to a halt. We'd have been up to our eyes in frogs and bugs. The last category was going for a walk with a fixed purpose in mind. This was a daunting experience, such as would give you nightmares